Welcome to Box Recaps. Today, I'm going to explain the movie The White Tiger, released in the year 2021. The movie starts and we see an entrepreneur named Balaram Halwai emails a Chinese premier, Wen Jiabao, requesting a meeting and relating his life story. He describes the situation around his country in that email. He states his belief that the Indian underclass is trapped in a perpetual state of servitude, like chickens in a chicken coop. As he goes on to explain different stuff to him in the email, he starts telling his life story. He writes that he belongs to a small village in India where he used to go to a small school in his village. At his school, no one knew how to write or speak English. Balaram was the only student in his school who could read and speak English. That is why he was known as the White Tiger at his school. We see that Balaram lives with his father and his old grandmother. Their family funds are organized by his grandmother. She is the one who is responsible for taking care of all of the expenses at the house, so she is in charge of the money. Balaram has always been a talented student. His teachers are well aware that this boy is capable of becoming something big. One day, his teacher tells him that there is a chance he might get selected for a big school in Delhi. He might get a scholarship that will help him complete his studies. However, when his father is unable to pay off the village landlord, the stork, Balaram is forced by his grandmother to work in the village's tea stall, and he never returns to school. He finds out that his father is suffering from tuberculosis. There is no doctor in the area who can treat him, so his father also dies of TB in a hospital. Now, Balaram has nothing in his life except that tea stall where he works. One day, the stork's son, Ashok, comes to the village. Ashok is the son of a landlord, the very landlord to whom they have to pay the debt. Balaram aspires to become a chauffeur for Ashok, who has returned from the United States with his Jackson Heights-raised wife Pinky. Now, there is one thing that he needs to do first. He needs a driver's license. Balaram has his grandmother sponsor his driving lessons, with the promise of sharing his chauffeur's salary. The grandmother agrees, because she loves the thought of Balaram earning more money. Balaram then goes on to learn how to drive, and he is very determined to become a good driver. After he has learned how to drive, he goes to the landlord's house and tells them that he wants to be a chauffeur for Ashok. Balaram is hired as the stork family's second driver, but is also given menial tasks to complete and is otherwise mistreated. He is never even treated like a driver. They just treat him like a minor servant. He is made to do many things, like cleaning the house, massaging the landlord and his son, and serving them food. He has to do all of these things, the things he did not expect or wanted to do being a driver. He had no respect in the house, and they treat him very badly and very harshly. As Balaram's miserable routine goes on at the landlord's house, we see Pinky, the landlord's daughter-in-law. Pinky is a doctor by profession. She and Ashok fell in love when they were in America, and they then got married. They are currently having some issues with politicians in Delhi, so they decide to go to Delhi. Ashok is actually going to bribe Indian politicians so that his family would avoid paying tax money. Balaram, wanting to drive for them in Delhi, exposes the secret of the family's primary driver. He is a Muslim. After the primary driver is fired due to the family's stereotypical prejudice against Muslims, when Balaram goes to Delhi, he realizes that he has been missing out on so much. He comes to a realization that there are many things that he ought to change in himself. One day, when Balaram is serving tea to a guest, he starts to scratch himself, and Pinky gives him a piece of her mind for being so gross. Balaram realizes that he needs to start staying neat and clean. He right away goes to the market and buys toothbrushes, toothpaste, and new clothes for himself. He is so annoyed. Why was he not told that it is bad manners to scratch yourself in front of somebody else? Why was he not told that it is bad to eat so many pants? He started to think that he has been such an idiot and a gross person all this time. He tries his best to brush his teeth with all the force in his hands, but the stains left by the pans on his teeth do not go away. He now desperately wants to get away from his past. He wants to move on from his past. but he is connected to it in every aspect of his life. So, it is not going to be that easy to happen. He just wants to turn his life around instantly, but it does not happen for him. In contrast to other members of their family, Ashok and Pinky generally treat Balaram with respect and eventually become closer to him, though they still view him as a servant. Everything is going according to plan in Delhi, and then comes Pinky's birthday. That night, Pinky and Ashok go out to celebrate her birthday, and Ashok surprises her. They both get really drunk, and when they are in the car, Balaram is driving, but as they hit the road, Pinky starts being stubborn that she is going to drive. Balaram is forced to step aside, and Pinky, who is extremely drunk, ends up killing a child while driving. They are all scared and panicked at the thought that they are gonna go to jail. Having no other choice, Ashok calls his father and explains to him the whole scenario. They talk, and the next thing that we see, everyone starts to treat Balaram very kindly. The Stork family coerces Balaram into signing a confession endorsed by his grandmother. They make him sign some papers in which it is clearly written that Balaram is the one responsible for this incident, and he was the one who ran over the kid. One of the landlord's men tells him that he visited his grandmother, implying that she will be killed if Balaram does not sign the papers. Ashok tries to defend Balaram, saying it is not right to blame everything on the innocent, but he backs down, having no authority over his tyrannical father. This moment hits Balaram hard. He starts to realize that he feels like he is trapped in a cage, and he wants to get out of that cage. He, however, constantly finds himself unable to get out of that cage. The good thing is that gradually he starts to realize that he is the only one who holds the key to that cage. So, if he stays determined and adamant, he is gonna be able to make it out of that cage. Or maybe the cage is already open. Maybe he himself is too reluctant to step outside of that cage. He realizes how ordinary people like him have no life. They have no significance and no importance. The kid who died in Pinky's car crash? That case does not even get investigated, only because the kid belonged to a poor family. Had he been born into a rich family, the police would have been all over them. They go on to inform Balaram that he is not going to go to jail because the crime was not reported to the police in the first place. When Balaram hears the good news, he goes to touch the feet of the landlord, but the landlord kicks him away. Of course he does that because Balaram has now done his job, and since the crime was not reported, they do not need to be nice to him anymore. Balaram is left shaken, and in no doubt that he is completely disposable to the Stork family. Pinky is the only one who feels for Balaram. She is angry at the behavior of the landlord. She realizes that these people do not even consider their servants human, as they do not even give them the basic respect that any human being deserves. Pinky then leaves Ashok to return to New York. Before she leaves, she gives some money to Balaram and tries to make him understand that only he is the one who can break out of the cage he is currently in. She also tells him to take care of Ashok in her absence. When Balaram gives the news of Pinky's departure to Ashok, he starts to slap him, and Balaram shoves him to the ground, having enough of it. When Pinky is not around, Balaram tries his best to take good care of Ashok in every way possible. Ashok becomes a drunk, and Balaram tries his best to nurse him back to good health. The two start to bond, but when everyone is around, Balaram is treated as a servant, as he always has been. However, as time goes by, he comes to a realization that it does not matter how much he takes care of Ashok. He is always going to be a servant to this family. Yes, Balaram realizes that loyal service to Ashok was no guarantee of a comfortable life once his services were no longer needed. Balaram starts to think that he has to make a decision for himself. He tries to think of a plan, but nothing significant comes to mind. Nothing that would make a vast difference. On the other hand, Ashok and his brother start to talk about hiring another driver as well. Balaram comes to know of this, and now he is even keener to come up with something that would make his life better. For days, he keeps thinking as to what he should do. Balaram begins to defraud Ashok with fake invoices, while making money on the side by selling the car's petrol and using the car as an unlicensed taxi. Balaram encounters a series of setbacks. He angers the Stork family when he donates change to a beggar. Balaram's grandmother unexpectedly sends one of his younger nephews to live with him in order to learn how to become a driver. One day, Balaram gives a beggar some money, and he gets shouted at by the boss, who tells him that this is not his money. He then receives a letter from his grandmother. He goes on to read the letter and finds out that she has found a girl for him and he is going to marry her. It does not sit well with Balaram, because he has been trying to come up with a way to control his own life and not let others control it. And his grandmother announcing that he has to get married to the girl of her choice is just another realization that he has no control over his life whatsoever. Balaram comes up with a plan. He breaks a bottle and hides it inside the car. He then sees that Ashok always tends to have a lot of cash on him because he often has to go and see the politicians and bribe them to get his way. So, he keeps a big amount of cash on him. Balaram plans that he is going to kill Ashok, take all the money, and run away. Balaram now regularly starts to drive Ashok around, who has been bribing the people as he wants them to defeat the great socialist in the upcoming elections. He looks into the bag full of money and realizes that one bag is 4 years' worth of his salary at least. One day, Balaram gets his chance when Ashok prepares to pay a particularly large bribe. Balaram has an epiphany on how to escape servitude as the White Tiger. To obtain the bribe money. As he drives Ashok, he claims that something is wrong with the wheel and that he needs to stop. He then convinces Ashok to help him. Then, he goes on to stab him with the bottle multiple times, and finally slits his throat to finish him. He gets back inside the car, screams, laughs, and finally smiles when he sees the bag of money. He goes to the train station to flee, but goes back for his nephew. He right away goes to Bangalore, and Balaram uses the knowledge he learned from Ashok to find a way into the business. He starts a taxi service called White Tiger. When Balaram has his own business, and he himself is the boss of many people, he tries to make sure that he is going to be a better boss than his former boss, the landlord who used to treat him like an animal. So he is always nice to people working under him. He respects everyone, and never lets them feel like they are his servants. Balaram takes his nephew with him to Bangalore, then a bubble for large IT companies. He uses a portion of the stolen cash to bribe the police to eliminate taxi service providers for a lack of licenses. Balaram starts his own taxi company, thus becoming wealthy himself. He treats his drivers as employees and not as servants. He takes personal and financial responsibility for any incidents caused by them, even employing a sibling of a child killed in an accident caused by a company driver. He sponsors his nephew's education while acknowledging that his remaining family back home may have been killed by the Stork's men in retribution. Happy to escape servitude, Balaram reveals at the end of the film that he changed his name to Ashok Sharma. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.